So 2010, the process in Lead At. Can you talk us through that?
Sure, sure. These employee actually starts the process by entering their goals and their competencies and their development activities.
But that's after, of course, as we've talked about before, they've had a conversation with the
their
supervisor,
supervisor.
right?
Absolutely,
That's clear.
absolutely. They've got something to take with them
That's
when
right.
they sit down at the system to enter the data
Great.
into Lead at UVA.
So that's step one.
That's step one.
Documenting it in there.
That's correct.
Great. And step two?
Oh yeah, and let me mention also
yeah.
that we've got a really great graphic that shows the entire workflow.
All 9 steps.
And there's
yeah.
9 steps, and this is different than the 2009 because the 2010 has 4 more steps in the process.
That's right, because it's the fully realized
It's the-
process. We're starting at the beginning and we're not just transitioning.
Exactly, it's the entire
right.
year. So step
Okay.
1, you're setting your goals.
Yep.
Okay. Then what's going to happen is your supervisor is going to approve the goals. So it's a really good idea to have had all those conversations,
Right.
so that you put it in, and then what are you going to do? You're going to send it forward.
Right.
Okay. So the send forward goes to the next step in the process, step 2,
Right.
and then your supervisor will then see the goals that were set for you.
And if the supervisor wants to tweak some things, they can either send it back to the employee to do it, or they can even modify it there and say, hey, Jane or John, I just modified some of the language there. And then when they feel good about that, they then send it forward to step 3. And what's step 3?
Well, before we get to step 3,
Oh,
though, I
okay.
just want to say one thing about step 2,
Yeah.
and that is that when you say approve the goals and the competencies, there's no box to check for
Right.
approval or anything like that. It's really just the supervisor reviewing what the employee has put in
Got it.
and saying, yep, that's exactly on
It's what we
target.
talked about. They captured it well, and
Right.
then I'm going to send it forward.
Right.
So by sending it forward, it moves into...
It goes to step 3, which actually is the interim evaluation, and
okay.
there's about a 6-month break between that step 2, the completion of step 2, and the start of step 3.
Wait, so you're saying that really from the October to December timeframe for 2010, we really just want people to talk to each other and then get steps 1 and step 2 accomplished?
That's right.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well
Yeah.
that's a lot more manageable than a 9-step process when you think about it like
Exactly, and just so I can let you know how I handled this with my team, I said to them, okay, you're now sitting at step 2. Well, gee, you got a long time now, and you've got some great goals set
Right.
up. What's the expectation between sort of step 2 and step 3? Because on the workflow it says interim evaluation.
Right.
And we're saying that's 6 months from now. Well, what happens between those 2 steps? So I said, look, you're going to go in, right? You're
Right.
going to go into the software. Hopefully you're going to have some results to enter. And there's a box on the system on the form for your goals where you enter all the things that are happening around that goal. I went to a training class. I accomplished this after
Sure.
that. I did that. And you're going to save it. You know, you're going to go in again another day, another month
So
maybe.
you can archive
save
progress
it.
and hopefully talking to your supervisor
Talking to your
in between,
supervisor,
right? Every
absolutely.
week, every 2 weeks,
Absolutely.
whatever the normal flow is, so that it's not like they stop talking to each other, right?
Exactly. And
Uh,
they could have new goals that come
Right.
up.
You can add goals.
So they would add a goal
modify,
potentially.
right?
They would modify. They potentially, I mean, we don't hope that that would happen, but they might have to delete a goal.
They
Something
might have to.
really
Well,
drastically
conditions
changes.
change
Yeah,
an
that's right.
organization,
Exactly
a
right.
different focus.
Yep.
So this it really is an opportunity for the employee to kind of archive that. Again, hopefully still continuing to have those conversations, which are critical. So
Right.
that's step 3. So time passes.
Well, actually, that's step 2, and then between 2 and 3, right? So you're
Step
still
2 is the supervisor, right?
Right.
They send it into the interim review,
Right.
which is step 3.
Step 3 is
Right.
sitting in the box in
And the
into-
employee.
of the employee.
And then what's next? What happens after that?
So at the interim review, you want to talk about that?
Well, the employee, to complete step 3, they do their self-evaluation for the interim
okay,
evaluation.
great,
Right? They
great.
go in and kind of evaluate how they think they've done
At that
toward
point.
making progress toward their goals. Yeah, absolutely. And then they would send it forward in the workflow, which
Okay,
means
great.
the form goes to the supervisor.
And then that's step 4. The
Right.
step 4, the supervisor then reviews that information and comes up with their own interim evaluation as
We'll
well.
rate the employee at this
Say
midpoint
it's
in
6
the year.
months on, you're effective. You're meeting your goals and frequently exceeding them, and then provide some feedback in the system. Of course, have a conversation, right?
Absolutely.
I know we say that a lot, but it really is about the conversations.
It is.
What happens after that? Step 5. Time passes again,
Time
right?
passes again. Right,
The
that's right. It's
supervisor
about-
sends it forward into step 5, and what's step 5?
Step 5 is, okay, so we've had 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 5 is now starting the annual evaluation process.
That's right.
So
So
if you-
time passes again. It's back in the employee's.
Now it's back in
To-do
the
list.
employee's to-do list, and
Uh-huh.
it's a self-evaluation for the annual evaluation
okay.
process. So they'll do another, a real self-evaluation as opposed
Because
to
the year is
the interim.
finishing.
Year's finishing. Hopefully everybody did a good job on their goals and everything.
Great.
They'll evaluate themselves and send it forward, which goes to the next step in the
Just the
process.
supervisor.
That's right, and let's not forget that the employee, when they self-evaluate, they're evaluating themselves on their goals, on
Yes.
their competencies
Competencies.
development,
And they're
Right?
also
And their
reflecting
overall.
on their
Mhm.
career progress in preparation for that
Yes.
conversation with the supervisor.
Yep.
Great. So the supervisor then is step 6.
Right?
They complete the review, add feedback, and evaluate the competencies and the goals. Those are the two
Correct.
components of the final evaluation, and review the other tabs.
Mhm.
And then they move it on to step 7. They send
7.
forward to step 7, and that is
The reviewer.
we
Now
get
it's
back
ready
to
for the
calibration,
reviewer.
which we learned about in
Calibration.
the
That's right.
09
Critical.
process.
Critical
Yes.
step.
So the reviewer's not gonna sign it until there's a calibration
They have a
done.
discussion of the organizational ratings and reviews and
Yep.
feedback.
And we talk a bit about that both on the webpage and also in the 2009 workflow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so once they've done that calibration, they can then sign the form, and when they sign it, when they're done signing it, they'll send it forward.
And that's a
right.
good sign for the supervisor then to have that conversation with the employee.
Exactly, they don't wanna
And
sign it until they've had the conversation.
Because they've essentially got sign off that the review's ready to present to the employee. They have a conversation. The supervisor then signs off electronically and then gets to step 9, which is
That's right. The employee, the form goes back to the employee, goes forward to the employee, from the
sends it
Correct.
supervisor.
forward.
That's
Right.
right.
Interesting.
Right.
Yep, and the employee signs it.
And then it is available in the archives again for review.
They can access it at
What's
any point.
interesting to me is that even though there are 9 steps, and that seems like a lot, we're really looking at a 12-month period, 10 to 12-month
yeah,
period.
it's
So
taken a while.
when you separate it into 3 phases, the planning and then the interim check and the evaluation, all surrounded by regular conversations, it seems like a very doable, helpful process.
I think so.
Absolutely. And I just want to make one other comment about that last step. The employee, after they sign it, always have to send it forward. Some people in our pilot group didn't realize that. It was kind of interesting. They were like, well, gosh, I signed it, but you have to send it forward to really close your process
Good
out.
That's
point.
great. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like signing a piece of paper but not turning it in. right?
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
right. So you have
Okay.
to turn it in.
Excellent.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that throughout this whole 9-step process, remember that we're setting 3 goals.
Right.
Okay, 3 goals.
Minimum of 3
A
goals.
minimum
Yeah,
of
it could be
3.
more than that.
It
but a
could be
minimum
more,
of 3,
correct.
yeah.
Minimum of 3 competencies.
Right.
Right.
And 1 development plan.
Right.
So
Okay.
when people are thinking about the 2010 process, they want to really be prepared to do 3 goals, 3 competencies, 1 development plan.
Right. And they could have 5 competencies. It's up 3 to
Absolutely.
5, but they've got to
Yeah.
have a minimum of 3, as you said.
Yep,
Excellent.
great.
It's a great process.